You're watching Monty TV. I'm Jackie Karsh, sitting down now with Nathan Mintz. He's the co-founder and CEO of electronic warfare company CX2. Thank you so much for sitting down with me, Nathan.
Thanks, Jackie. It's great to be here.
What are we finding? What are we seeing in the electronic warfare space?
Well, I think a lot of the game has changed based on what we've seen in Ukraine, right? Where we have 1 million drones that the Ukrainians are going to produce this year, a similar number on the Russian side. And they're doing the bulk of the fighting is with robots, basically. And the way that we control them is through wireless connections, data links, command and control links, television links that come back that help you make sense of what the drone is and where it's doing. That's what's doing the bulk of the fighting right now, right? And so that means that the spectrum layer, which allows us to control those signals, has become the new domain of warfare in a way that we haven't seen before. I mean, electronic warfare has been around for a long time, arguably 100 years, right? During World War I, they used to cut telegram lines to the front lines. During World War II, we used it to jam the Battle of the Beams during the Battle of Britain. During the Gulf War, we used it to stop Saddam Hussein's radars, right? But today, we're at a level of density of transmitters and receivers that we've never had before. And whoever masters that domain is going to master the 21st century battlefield.
So we've come a long way from the musket. I love this history that you have. Does the history of warfare impact how you're developing the future of warfare?
Oh, 100%. I think probably a lot of our inspiration comes from one of the 20th century's most foremost thinkers on this, John Boyd, who invented something called the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, and act, which actually has a lot of business schools teach it too, because it has a way, philosophically it applies to sense and sense making on not just the battlefield, but anywhere where you're taking in incomplete information and trying to make a decision, right? And the key is you want to maneuver in whatever domain you're operating in faster than your enemy can, right? So yeah, that's kind of like what we're aiming to do is build those systems and that system of systems that allows us to dominate in the electromagnetic spectrum in the 21st century.
Okay, but when you up the technology, you also up the risk, correct? Right? The possibility of getting hacked or being attacked in that way.
Yes, so what you have to do is make sure that you're building your systems from the ground up with the electronic warfare domain in mind, right? So that means, for example, you can't take GPS signals for granted. You have to build systems that are able to operate in the absence of that. You have to assume that the enemy is going to try and jam or defeat your command signals, and so you have to make them more robust, include anti-jam features, or make the system so they can operate without continuous command and control, right? So we're working on all those things in our systems from the ground up. We have an electronic warfare operating system that command and controls many drones at once. We have a surveillance and reconnaissance drone that fingerprints the emitters on the battlefield and then geolocates them. And then we have another drone that goes out and finishes them called Banshee that actually goes out and takes them out with a loitering munition, right? So find, fix, and finish emitters on the battlefield is probably the easiest way to think of what we do.
You probably have to innovate so much faster, right? Because you're actually chasing an enemy.
That's right. So in the past, U.S. defense contractors have kind of been like a Soviet tractor factory. Every 5 or 10 years, we come out with an improvement. If we're lucky, every 2 years, we come out with a software improvement. Well, the game has completely changed based on what we've seen in Ukraine. About once a month, they're coming out with new hardware changes to their drones. Software changes are oftentimes occurring multiple times a day. I think 6 times a day is the most I've heard. So we need to be able to build the system that can upgrade and operate very quickly in that kind of iterative research and development and deployment environment, almost like CI/CD for software, right? So we're building into the company's DNA the ability to iterate that quickly. And we've done it so far. We're on like the 7th iteration of our drone, and the company's only 8 months old.
Where do you see this electronic warfare moving in the next couple of years? What is war going to look like?
Well, right now what we're seeing in Ukraine is we have guys with FPV, first-person view goggles that you've probably seen on TV that are steering one drone to one target, right? In the future, we're going to have one guy commanding many drones, right? And so that scalability suddenly becomes like the main thing that we're seeing, where it's like Command and Conquer, the video game when I was a kid, right? You press a button and 100 things go over here and do your bidding. That's probably the direction that we're going to go in the next 5 years.
When you're building this type of technology, you need to have an incredibly motivated and inspired team. How have you put that team together?
Well, my co-founders and this is my third startup. My first one, Epirus, is a defense unicorn doing high-power microwave. Second one was Spartan Radar, autonomous vehicles. Now this. My other co-founder, Mark Trefgarn, founded LiveRail, which is enterprise software. He sold it to Facebook for $500 million. My other co-founder, Porter, was a former SOCOM helicopter pilot. He used to drop, Green Berets and stuff into war zones. And then our other co-founder built the whole comm stack for SpaceX's Starship, right? So we've got a very talented team. We pull a lot of people from SpaceX, from Palantir, from Anduril, from New Defense, and a few people from Old Defense who have some of the old school EW reach back that we can pull in. And really, I'm prouder of this team than I have of any of the 3 teams that I built so far.
So just make sure that you have the most incredible people surrounding you.
Basically, yeah.
All right, that in a nutshell.
I only hire people that are smarter than me.
That's a good rule of thumb. Nathan, thank you so much for sitting down with me.